What does the future of PPC, Google Ads, SEO, and digital marketing as a whole look like in the next 5 years? That's the question I'm asking Greg Finn from Cypress North and the Marketing O'Clock podcast on today's episode of Search with Candour.
I don't understand why everybody's, I'm team this or team that. You're just working within a search engine. How are you not interested if there's new ad types that are taking up more space? And how are you not interested if there's AI overviews and the SERPs are changing? If you're in SEO and now all of a sudden ads are being injected in dynamic ads within the SERPs, like all that stuff should matter to everybody. I dare you to find something on your mobile phone, which is the number one device for search, to find a query where there's actual content above the fold. And as much as I would like to be like, hey, I just want an exact match keyword to match, those days are gone. I follow somebody on Instagram that's as many reviews as possible, reviews sneakers and reviews gear, and it's phenomenal. They're very in-depth reviews. It's a human. And then there's a YouTube channel and they're doing great. I just like good people and I like good things. I don't know why. It's just like that show. It's doing good stuff. And I like positivity.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Search with Candour. My name is Jack James Ward. I am your host as always, and this is the podcast where I interview the best and brightest across the digital marketing industry, and we talk all about SEO, the search landscape, search marketing, and everything that's happening in and around it. And it is a very, very exciting episode, particularly for me, but I think hopefully it's very exciting for you as well. I am joined by the one and only Greg Finn. You probably already know who Greg is, but in case you don't, I will give him a lovely little intro in a moment's time. But I am a huge fan of Greg and the fantastic work that he does hosting the podcast Marketing O'Clock. And essentially, it's my favorite marketing podcast. I highly recommend it. Production values are brilliant. The chemistry between Jess and Christine, aka Shep, and Greg and the team is just fantastic. They highlight the latest news, they do all brilliant breakdowns and all that kind of stuff. And of course, Greg is a key part of the digital marketing team over at Cypress North, which is the agency that essentially produces Marketing O'Clock in the same way that we do Search with Candour here, except they have much bigger production values. So if you haven't already, go and check out Marketing O'Clock and stay tuned for my conversation with Greg all about the future of search. I know that sounds like a big topic, but I specifically wanted to talk to Greg because he's got so much experience across SEO and PPC and other bits and pieces that basically tie in to make this pie that we call digital marketing, right? The search landscape, search marketing, it all comes together. And I think Greg's real kind of key point here is that I think we find ourselves not even necessarily working, but only paying attention to bits and pieces of news or certain influences or podcasts or whatever it is about our little niche, when actually you should be paying attention to the whole thing. PPC and the growth of Google Ads and social ads and all that kind of stuff affects what we do from the organic perspective as well. And the same is true for the PPC side of things. You should be paying attention to what is happening and changing on the SERPs, the technology that's evolving, regardless of what side it's on, because it's going to affect you, your positioning, and the way you're represented in things like AI overviews in Google or ChatGPT search, or even the traditional SERPs when you're seeing things like local packs or sponsored posts and all that kind of stuff. I think it's a really interesting conversation. Like I said, Greg is one of my favorite people to talk to, so it's very, very cool to finally sit down and have a full conversation with him, apart from the little chats and back and forths we've had on LinkedIn before. So yeah, please do stay tuned for my conversation with Greg Finn, coming up after a little tease for the latest feature for Also Asked. And that's coming up right about now. Did you know that Google personalizes many searches by city, and Also Asked is the only tool to access live People Also Asked data at city level? Try for free at alsoasked.com. My guest this week has worked in digital marketing for nearly 2 decades. You may recognize him from his years of writing at Search Engine Land, speaking at conferences around the world, including SMX, eSummit, and PubCon, especially co-hosting podcasts such as It's New, the daily SEO and PPC news show, and my favorite marketing podcast, and he already knows this because I told him about it, Marketing O'Clock. He is the co-founder and head of performance and innovation at Cypress North. He is also a certified lad. Welcome to the show, Greg Finn.
Thank you. That was the best intro that I've ever had in my life. I don't have the lad vibes today, but I put it on for a show a few months back.
Honorary lad vibes, right? Honorary lads. That's
I'll
what I
take it.
appreciate. I love how we've kind of got this almost like British American kind of dynamic here. You're bringing the New Yorkness, I'm bringing the Britishness, and I feel like it's kind of be a similar way. You're bringing some PPC knowledge, bringing some wider digital marketing knowledge. I'm coming from the SEO side of things as well. It almost feels like a sequel episode to I did with one of your co-hosts on It's New, funnily enough. Anu talked about a couple of months ago about how SEO and PPC work together. I know you came in with a ask me anything, dude. I don't mind. I was like, cool, okay, let's get big picture and predict the future and worry about all the terrible things that are happening in the world right now in a digital marketing sense. So we're going to kind of cover the state of PPC, how that's changed, and how it kind of reflects in a lot of the changes we're seeing in SEO. Maybe it'll predict some of the changes we'll see in SEO coming up in the next few years as well. How does that feel, Greg?
That feels great. And just to be candid, like, I don't understand why everybody's like, I'm team this or team that. It's like, dude, you're just working within a search engine. How are you not interested if there's new ad types that are taking up more space? And how are you not interested if there's AI overviews and the SERPs are changing? And if you're in SEO and now all of a sudden ads are being injected in dynamic ads within the SERPs, like all that stuff should matter to everybody. And even if it's not your day to day, I just find it weird that people don't like seek that information.
I mean, that's why I listen to shows like Marketing O'Clock, right? I don't do. I know I'm kissing your ass here, but like I don't do PPC day to day. That's not the stuff I'm keeping up to the SEO news for this podcast, for our newsletter, all that kind of stuff. So it's nice to have that kind of way to keep up with that side of the industry. Because like you said, I feel like it's hugely relevant, especially with all the stuff we're seeing changing on the SERPs. I know there's been a big conversation about the like, are you really still rank tracking? Maybe you should be looking at the actual real estate on the SERP and how that matters for you, your sites, your brands and stuff, right? And I think that has always been a conversation between the paid and organic side of things. Like, okay, like you said, if they insert an ad, that pushes your results even further down. AI overviews pushing your results even further down. Do you think we're going to see even more of that as AI overviews evolve into AI mode and that gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and takes up the entire SERP? Is there ads at the top, then AI overview, then anything else? Like what does the future of a SERP look like, Greg?
That's a great question. Unfortunately, I think there will be more ads, right? Like I think that's the case. I think that the shocking thing to me, honestly, is the fact that and I think the AI overviews is like a really, half-baked rollout of a product. I don't think it's good. I don't think it's what Google wants. I don't think that they're happy with it. Like that's why they have AI mode in my opinion, or have at least announced it. They've never really had ads in any of those AI overviews at all. And we heard about it back in 2013 at Google I/O, and they're like, oh, there'd be ads in here too. But yeah, there's going to be ads in AI overviews. There's going to be normal ads. And at some point, everything might become AI. Like it might be the future, right? Like we don't know. I think it's a competitive advantage that Google has is they've got sort of the best standard search. And with AI mode, they can really kind of go and compete with something like a ChatGPT where, ChatGPT doesn't have those rankings to fall back on, those kind of traditional SERPs. But I would assume there's going to be more ads. Once ads are in AI overviews, that's going to be another placement. And then we're seeing them again. We saw something back in March where there were 3 ads from the same advertiser in one SERP, right? And then it's crazy, right? But Google needs to make money.
Yeah, and we talk about this. I know you guys have covered it before as well. Like just the sheer crazy numbers that Google deals with in terms of ad revenue on a yearly basis. It was like $260 billion or something like that. It's like, yeah, that's a pretty significant amount of money. And they don't give a shit about us from the organic point of view. So it's the paid stuff that makes a big difference. I know this is something Anna and I were talking about as well. Like the changes you see from an ads perspective, you basically in Google, you have a direct line to Google in a way that organic people don't. We're kind of like the SEO community has kind of kept it a bit of a distance. And we're kind of like, yeah, we're not revealing everything yet. Maybe some data will leak here and there and all that kind of stuff. But to me, and especially speaking to people who work in PPC day to day, it feels like there's more of a a constantly changing, shifting, direct kind of relationship with Google. And I know you have called them out on many things they've done badly over the years, Greg, and praised them for things they're doing right. I know, like, again, in March, that recent addition of negative keywords to PMAX being a big shift and feeling like a big positive thing. And I know you highlighted that in Marketing and Clark, being like, this is the thing. They're listening to the community. Do you feel like Google needs to listen to the communities a bit more, or they listen to it a bit too much? I think there's kind of a two-way kind of flex there as well, right?
Yeah. And I would say that directionally, on the ad side, Google has gotten much, much better at that, right?
Mhm.
On the organic side, I mean, I feel for y'all. Like, I feel like you don't really have that. I know there's a search liaison that you've got somewhere, but it's much different on the ad side. I do think Google's made some positive things. Like, I know in March they dropped page annotations, but then what popped right up is like, hey, there's in preview like AI overviews with links that just send you right to the search results, which is like, I'm already in the search results. This is how you're getting 5 trillion searches a year. I don't feel like they listen to everything. I think they're honestly not in a great spot, right? Where you look at, and there's data coming out here like, oh, Google search is 373 times bigger than ChatGPT and all that. But like these AI engines are doing very well, right? Like, yes, I know it's much bigger, but it's shocking even just that there are that many sort of like searchy searches on ChatGPT. So I just strayed from the question, but I think the answer is like Google's done a great job on the ad side, actually listening to feedback, which is really surprising. I feel like a lot of the changes that they make have come from the community. Yeah, there's still faults with all the stuff. Like broad match has still got issues. It's horrible to look at your keyword or your search query report, but it works. And PMAX, yeah, you can't see everything. Like you can't get everything you need, but we can now remove brand and we can do these things. So I really wish that there was that on the organic side, but I also understand it's hard and you are kind of beholden a little bit more to people that are paying you, right? Like people that are paying you should probably get a little bit more service, but you can still serve everybody, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And like that you said there's that element of you should pay attention to the people that are paying the money, and the, like we said, the PPC, the paid ad side of things, is the stuff that makes Google money. And at the end of the day, that is their goal. They are a business. They are one of the biggest companies in the history of the world for a reason, right? They don't just accidentally make billions and billions of dollars every year. And when it comes to that kind of thing, like you said, when they're listening to the community, I think there's definitely some positive things. Like you said, I feel very sorry for a lot of the Google search people having to deal with it, with Martin and John and Gary and those guys having to deal with all this stuff. I can only imagine what their LinkedIn DMs look like. Like,
Oh, it's got to be a
mine are
mess.
bad enough, and I am not a significant person at all. I get enough, hey, I want to build links and all this kind of stuff, and people complaining about stuff.
It's probably like the old conference days when Matt Cutts would show up in an SMX and there'd just be a trail of people and you just see this like crowd moving and just following them around, asking them questions.
Yeah. I've seen that happen to John Miller at Brighton before a couple of times, and people would just stop him every 3 steps for a selfie, basically, and he was just like, which is nice, you know. That's a nice problem to have, I guess, but also must be exhausting.
Yeah.
And when you mentioned PMAX there, I think that's something a lot of us, again, coming from the outside and looking in, saw a lot of this kind of automation stuff happening in PPC. It's shifting more towards, for one better phrase, Google saying like, yeah, just optimize by spending more money. Don't worry about it. Like, you know, Google saying, oh yeah, we'll handle that bit for you. We'll start taking away some of the control. Do you feel like that's a direction that PPC is going in as well when it comes to automated things and AI generated components we're now adding into PPC side of things as well?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's the way it's going. That's the way it will be. As much as you don't like it, and as much as I would like to be like, hey, I just want an exact match keyword to match exactly, those days are gone. You know what I mean? And I think there's a few different camps out there, but I think there are still people that like it's not up to the level of granularity that they're used to, and it's not what they like. And it's a hard transition for them, but it's also a transition that's reality, right? Like, you probably don't like AI overviews. Probably not going away. Probably going to be more AI, right? And it's like, I can look at this and pretend it doesn't exist and say, hey, this is I'm just going to block it from my mind, but it doesn't really help anything, right? And, there's lots of, I think one thing that I wish more people like thought about is, when you look at these tools, these things in front of you, like, how do you take advantage of them when other people aren't? And for PMAX, for example, right? Like, if somebody has a poor agency and they're just running PMAX, they're probably showing up for a lot of branded terms. They're probably showing up for a lot of remarketing, and it's really skewing towards things that aren't scalable, aren't incremental. So how can you be a good agency and take these tools that you have and say, I'm going to use brand exclusions. I'm going to use these negative terms, or you know what? I'm going to build my own PMAX. I really want these search queries. So I'm going to set up a search campaign, and then I'm going to set up a demand gen campaign. And by doing both of those, I still get the same inventory. And there's just like a lot of bad information out there, but 100% we are losing control. We are going to probably lose the keyword, and it's going to be keyword themes and things like that. It's coming. It's just not here yet. And there's nothing I can do about it, and I've kind of come to that conclusion. Like, I'm going to deal with reality on reality's terms, not on what I would like. And I think that's a huge thing that just a lot of people fight and fight and fight and fight. And it's like, I know this is coming. I'm sort of made peace with it already.
Yeah, that's a really interesting way of looking at it, because like you said, I think we are guilty of being stuck in our ways in digital marketing and life in general as humans. I think we don't want change in many ways. We end up stuck with this, like, oh God, now I've got to deal with AI. And I know I've had this conversation many times on the podcast before, like, but talking to my parents or talking to my wife who are not particularly digital marketing, thinking about that stuff like we are every day. My parents are barely online, let alone they can barely order stuff off of Amazon, let alone use Google Ads or do SEO or anything like that. But my wife has started using ChatGPT for stuff. Like, she's been working through like job applications or helping to rewrite her resume and stuff. It's like, oh yeah, it's now like infiltrating the normies outside of us that are paying attention. And like you said, this is an inevitable thing you can't escape, and I don't think it's something you can fight back against. So does that kind of spell, and I hate to use the phrase, the old SEO is dead that we hear every 6 bloody months at this point, does that level of automation continue to grow to where people aren't needed to manage PPC accounts anymore? Does it grow where we don't need SEOs because it's all personalized SERPs anymore?
I don't think so. So I'll address the PPC side first. There's plenty of hope, because even right now, some of the AI that Google keeps touting is so phenomenal. It made a headline for example that I saw where it said, the headline was, "We are, period, we aren't, period." And it's like, what is that? You know what I mean? So like, yeah, you can still do a better job than that. But I think the bigger thing is, and it's almost like, it's nice on the PPC side. I'm just gonna be candid. I'm sorry, on the SEO side. But really sort of like working on bigger business objectives, right? Like, that to me is so critical, right? With like all this stuff out here, cool. I want to make sure we're looking at like incremental sales, right? I don't want to over index. I want to spend as little on brand terms as I possibly can. I want to go out and make sure that I'm getting new customers, or I have campaigns specifically for recurring customers that haven't purchased in a while, right? How can I bring them back into the fold? How can I do these things? And some of these tools like ChatGPT is phenomenal, right? It's a time saver. So like, to me, it's a lot of it is like, what do I do with my time now? Right? Like, I got this extra time. How can I focus in on these things? And so, no, I don't think somebody that's doing PPC is dead. And especially because there are all these competing networks out there as well, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I think, yes, your spend may not be nearly Google skewed when you look at your digital advertising landscape. So cool. How do you go out there and learn other things? Like, go try Mountain, It's a fantastic way. You can buy on connected TV. It's like connected TV app. Go try other lists from Trade Desk or something like that. Like there are lots of different options, and I think, yeah, are people going to be as dialed in only doing one thing? No, but I think it's your opportunity to grow, and then it's like that business objective. People still don't do that enough, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. I think that, like you just said, that kind of shift in mentality, where you've got to grow with the industry and go with the flow of things and make sure you are adapting in the right ways. Because as much as I would like to fight back against AI, like you said earlier, I don't want to see AI overviews. I don't want to see a lot of this stuff and the crap headlines that have been churned out over the years. It drives me a bit nuts when you see people being like, well, I refuse to use this stuff. Like you're saying, there's people that just like don't want to engage in this stuff and really want to fight, and I'll start a petition to get AI overviews out of servers. Like, that's not going to happen. Like, AI mode is being tested for a reason, because they want to engage in this thing. The joke of like Sundar Pichai at IO last year and this year doing the whole AI every 2 seconds was Gemini. It's unavoidable at this point. And I think, interestingly, like you said, from the paid side of things, there are other ways. I wonder if this like erosion in the trust that people have in Google, whether that's working in Google or using it as users, does that push people to try other options, try different platforms, even outside of the AI side of things? Will we see a growth in, I don't know, people shifting more towards using social media for this kind of stuff? I know there was is TikTok a search engine big discussion a couple of years ago that you and I both covered on our respective podcasts in various rants. And it was like, no, but I see what you mean. I get the gist of not wanting to just be locked into one system and one ecosystem. But yeah. I know I was talking to Arnaud Hellmans the other day. I was like, they have such an advantage. Google is pissing away their advantage of us being in the ecosystem. We have Gmail, we have YouTube, we have all these different things that Google has us in. Like the Candour email system is Gmail. We use Google Docs, we use Google Slides, all this kind of stuff, right? I'm using Chrome right now to talk to you. Like there is so much of Google in here. Do you think maybe this even ties into the antitrust stuff and the divestment there as well? Do you think we will see people moving away from Google specific platforms because of the combination of the erosion of trust, the lack of control over data and things like that? Or do you think it will be a kind of Google's still the main player in the game, we have to play their game no matter what?
Yeah, I think candidly, you're giving people too much credit. I think people are generally way more stupid than you just made them out to. This is out to sound like. I don't think people care about it from like the antitrust or anything like that. I think they kind of just want good answers, right? And so it even goes back to the last question where like, is SEO PPC dead? Is SEO dead? I'm just make a statement. I'm going to say SEO is dead, but maybe it's SO, right? Maybe it's search optimization, and it's not the engine part, right? And it's something more like ChatGPT. Perplexity is technically a search engine, but if you give two people an example, they've never searched from like a different country or different place, or aliens, let's say, they'd look at Perplexity and say, I like this better than these mashed up AI overviews, ads everywhere, and then like the traditional SERPs. So I think there's always going to be an opportunity, and it's similar to what I just said with PPC, to optimize for search. Is it technically an engine? I don't know, but I think people are going to make that choice based off the quality of things. And, there were some studies showing that Gemini is one of the worst search experiences from an accuracy standpoint. And I think that's bad. Can some of the other opportunity or options out there, can they be good enough to get people to switch? I think it's going to be the quality, not like the antitrust and being evil. Like everyone knows Google's evil and people still use it.
You're totally right. I think there is the element where we kind of just go along with the path of least resistance in many ways, but also want the best answers and the best product. And sometimes they're not necessarily the same thing. Like you said there, the study recently that was talking about the insane levels of inaccuracy. I think Grok got up to like 90 something percent. It was absolutely terrifying. Like, okay. And people are basing entire businesses and entire like we're getting politicians getting to describe legislation to them using these machines that are 90% inaccurate. It's like, okay, great, brilliant. Yeah, that's great. Laws and lives and life and death matters are being decided by things that are 80% inaccurate.
Yeah, scary stuff.
It's this thing where, yeah, I think we will see a wider adoption of that kind of thing. Exactly as you said there about the SEO side of things. What does that mean for the future of search? I think speak to what kids are doing these days to make myself sound incredibly old. What are the kids up to these days? How many kids are actually using Google in the way that, no offense, Greg, you and I used Google when we were growing up back in the early internet days of like, being able to type in a 3-word search of best blue t-shirt and then like finding the best blue t-shirt or whatever. Not that you'd ever search for that, but you could do a really, really broad keyword and actually get results. Now,
Right.
good luck. There is no, you have to be super hyper specific, and also the conversational nature of the AI search stuff as well, like literally talking to the ChatGPT app or talking into Perplexity or whatever it is. I think that evolution of the way we search, I don't know if you have this kind of conversation with your kids, Greg, or if you're speaking to, other people that have kids that are starting to use the internet now. There's that, from what I'm, speaking to my niece who recently got a phone last year's birthday. She was having this conversation with my sister, being like, "Yeah, I'm using this thing in this way, and nobody uses search in this way. Nobody uses browsers in the way that you think we do. It's all TikTok, it's all YouTube Shorts, it's all video content and stuff like that. I don't know any kids who read articles. Do you know what I mean?"
Yeah, and to that point, I have 2 10-year-olds. All they know is ChatGPT. They say, ask ChatGPT. Yesterday, I just pulled up my history here. They were trying to convince me that there's a car that you can buy that flies. And I searched for flying cars on ChatGPT. My daughter came up with an idea to breed a corgi and sell it for $1 billion. And I said, I searched ChatGPT to see how many billionaires exist with 10 billion to show her she had a bad market size for her product. She had $1 billion corgi. I use ChatGPT for everything now. And my kids are like, ask ChatGPT, ask this, ask this. So, but again, those are different queries, right? And I think that's something where if you're asking for like, can you buy a flying car? Like, yeah, the people that are going to hurt the most with this are publishers, right? And people that are out there, where they need traffic, they need impressions, especially with like changes to AdSense, where it's now impression based instead of click based. Like, you need volume, and I feel for publishers because out of everything, like a lot of these queries aren't like mission critical for businesses, but for publishers they are. Right. Yeah. And I think that's going to be like the immediate downfall is content creators and publishers.
Yeah, definitely. I'm trying to think of a mission critical like business that has the mission critical statement of like flying cars or $1 billion corgi. Like, yeah, that is, as you said, a pretty limited business opportunity there.
Yeah, we just get in arguments and then we just say, ask ChatGPT, and then that solves it.
Yeah, because I know there was even that study, I think it was last year or a couple of years ago, like, oh, people under the age of 20 don't say Google it in the same way that you and I would use it as a verb, right? It's just search, or going back to the pre-Google days of just using a thing and searching for it and taking a generic verb and almost like reclaiming it in a way. And does that speak to, even outside of all the antitrust stuff and the Google potentially having to divest Chrome and all that kind of thing, just the habits of the next generation of people who are going to be the next generation of digital marketers, who are going to be doing whatever SEO and PPC look like in 10, 20 years or whatever. They're going to be part of this industry, and having, I don't know if podcasts will exist in 10 or 20 years, fingers crossed, but this kind of conversation in that time, do you think there will be a kind of, as in like a big reset every 10, 20 years or so? Is this like the big turning point in search that, because I feel like a lot of people have been around for a long time. I know you and I have been around for a fair while in search. Like, it's been fairly steady for a little while, if that makes sense. You can kind of result the same kind of fundamentals and basic principles that still kind of work as they did ish like 10 years ago, right? Do you think
Yeah,
this is a big flex point now where we're going to see shit actually change for the long term?
100%. It is, and I don't see any other way around it. I've been doing this since 2004. I've done things on the organic side. I've done things on the paid side. I'm mainly paid now. I don't see how anybody could say it's not right. Like there's a fundamental change in the most popular search engine, Google, in the way that they're displaying things. It's also a fundamental change in the way that you need to do business now, right? Like if I'm out there and I am, again, trying to be a publisher, let's say I do reviews, right? I know a lot of people do that. And a lot of people that really got hit by that helpful content update, they would have got hit anyway with this AI rollout and evolution, right? Like they're out there putting out reviews and information and details that's then being stolen, and placed on these results here. So it's hard. I don't know how any human being couldn't say that this is the biggest change in at least traditional search. With the personalization and Google Plus back in the day was probably the biggest thing I could think of. That's when you could see all your friends in your circle and your results would get changed for you. But this is huge. This is huge. And a lot of those people that relied and built a business around Google search are not going to be able to do that anymore. And I feel terrible for them, but there are other options. There's YouTube, there's being a creator on Instagram, there's other things like that. Like you have options, but you're not going to be able to say 90% of my business comes from Google. Google is probably going to be like, hey, 15%.
Yeah, I know there's definitely been a few conversations I've seen where community is kind of the buzzword of 2025, it seems, where people are saying, okay, if you're not going to get, like you said, the AdSense, you're not going to get the revenue from just the impressions and the clicks on your YouTube channel or your articles or whatever it is, there is a real kind of monetizable way of creating a community, whether it's like a premium newsletter, or I know you guys run a Discord for MOC, like I run a Discord for my film podcast as well. Like there is a real sense of creating closer knit kind of groups of people that will support you. Like my film podcast run, but we also have a Patreon that is a monthly subscription thing, and you can pay for bonus content and all that kind of stuff. We could never do that show with the technology that we have and the studio stuff that we use if we didn't have that support from people subscribing every month. If it was just us, me and my two friends writing about films on a website, we'd be screwed. There would be no way. So I do think, I don't know, do you think we're going to see a kind of almost like a consolidation of the internet? It feels like it's been very open and broad for so long, right? Everybody has access to everything. But things like Discord, things like Patreon, things like newsletters are far more closed off than the open web we're kind of used to over the last 20 years. Do you think that is kind of a part of that evolution as well, and shifting towards almost like a smaller internet in many ways?
Yeah, I think it's just, I don't know if it's small. I think it's going to be more segmented in a way.
Yeah, you could see I was trying to think of the word, right?
Yeah, where it's like you might, hey, cut a clip from the podcast and you put it up on Instagram and it takes off, or maybe you take that same clip and put it on Reels and it or on Shorts and it takes off. Like, I think the biggest thing is like, especially like on publisher and smaller stuff, is it's really, I think, going more creator based, right? Where like people don't listen to like Marketing O'Clock or Search with Candour because of the just show itself, but because of you or Shep or who's on our show. And like, how can you leverage that? Like leverage yourself if you're a creator or publisher. In this case, again, very specific. It's different for companies, but like, how do you go out there and make more content? Right. So that's something like I've been doing. I haven't had a great LinkedIn presence. So I'm like, you know what? I go on LinkedIn and all I see is AI garbage that is just, I'm reading ChatGPT. So I'm going to go and I'm going to make a video series once a week. And I'm just going to go out there and talk about something, and people know it's me and know it's authentic and know that's the case. And then I'll convert them into listening to Marketing Clock. The reason we made Marketing Clock is because people don't like companies that much and are hesitant to share it, information from companies. So we're like, well, what if we just made the best show that we could, something entertaining, and then just share everything from the community, that it's like by the community for the community. And it's worked really well for us. And it's like, yeah, I don't know. I think that just really thinking differently with it. I just think if you're in that mindset of being like, I'm an SEO, it's like, you want to be in that mindset. I'm a marketer, right? I'm really good at SEO, but I'm a marketer. And how do I do all these different, elements of marketing and really kind of be like, I'm very good at SEO, but I'm a marketer. What do I do?
100%. Yeah, I think because we almost saw the opposite of that. The perfect example being the publishers you mentioned earlier, that whole niche site period we went through, right? It's almost the exact opposite of that. I need to write product reviews for a hyper-specific niche or for a really specific industry, and actually maybe don't do that anymore. As you mentioned the helpful content update earlier, like we saw a lot of those sites get absolutely crushed by that. And I think we're seeing more and more people, like you said, and I have been an advocate of this on various podcasts over the years, even well before I was doing SEO podcasts, of I follow creators. I invest in people. Like, for example, God forbid, you leave marketing o'clock, Greg, and you go off and start your own, a rival podcast to battle with Jess and Shep and Cypress North and all that kind of stuff. I would follow you and say, oh, what's Greg up to now? I wonder, I followed you over to It's New. We mentioned Anu earlier, Barry and Mordy as well. Like, Mordy talks about the power of brand all the time. I know I had Mordy on the show a few months ago, like talking about this exact thing of, I get invested in a particular author, a particular video creator, podcaster, whatever it is. I follow them from place to place. If they work for a different company or they're totally independent or whatever. And this was something, I think I've told the story on the podcast before, but this was something I learned from doing a comic book podcast years and years ago. I would get into the habit of like, oh, I read all the Spider-Man comics, I read all the Batman comics, whatever. Actually, I found following the writers I enjoy and the artists I enjoy way better, because as soon as somebody passes off, they do 10 issues of Spider-Man, then pass it off to the next writer, the next 10 issues could be crap. Actually paying attention to, I really enjoyed that particular writer, I'll follow whatever they do next, even if it's not comics or if it's not on this particular character. That was a game-changing experience for me. And I've totally adopted that into my podcast habits, my YouTube creators, all this kind of stuff. I think you're spot on that we're going to see people as consumers, as users, as viewers, readers, whatever it is, get invested in people more. And you mentioned authenticity earlier there as well. That's one of the other the buzzwords of the year, it feels like. Getting, like you said, your face in front of a camera, talking into a microphone to people is so much better to me than, speaking of podcast marketing, right? We saw the rise of audiograms and stuff, right? Where it's just the text on the screen, but you can AI generate that stuff so easily these days. Like you said, I've seen it on Instagram millions of times, seen it on TikTok all the bloody time. When you can actually get as close as you can get-ish to a human interaction, it feels like you kind of break down that barrier and you can get way more of a connection, right?
Yeah. And even to your reviews point, I don't think there's any necessarily very good case for being like, I'm going to just create content for reviews and website, like a post or a page with the goal of being like, hey, I'm going to build this with Google traffic. I think, again, it can help you and it will be there, but it's not going to be something that's like 90%. But again, I follow somebody on Instagram that's as many reviews as possible, reviews sneakers and reviews gear, and it's phenomenal. They're very in-depth reviews. It's a human. And then there's a YouTube channel and they're doing great. And it's like, I think that is just the way where you need to be able to say, I need to be able to not just rely on that. Again, for publishers.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. When it comes to that kind of shift in publishing mindset, I guess, and thinking about the content creation side of things, do you think that will be something we see reflected in, I guess, in the citations we're going to see, right? I think we've seen a lot of YouTube getting included, obviously, in AI reviews, seeing a lot of video content being recommended in AI search and stuff like that. If there is going to be the shift away from the kind of traditional publishing models, I say, again, we're seeing a lot of people go behind paywalls and stuff like that as well, speaking of the subscription models. Do you think that shifts the kind of visual presentation of whatever, what do we call a chat GPT SERP? Is it a SERP still, I guess? I guess it is a search engine result, but an AI result paid, an ARP?
ARP, I love it. It just flows off the tongue. ARP.
What does the future of ARP look like, Craig?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything's going to be evolving, right? And I'd imagine that there's going to be a lot of testing going on. I don't think like we've really even started that within ChatGPT. It's just been like ChatGPT search has sort of been like the only thing. I do think there'll be more. I think it'd be like perplexity at the moment, right? Like where there's more visuals. There, it's not just here's a link and things like that. It might show like thumbnails. Again, there's licensing things, and if you could do that, and like Google's got really good connections, like obviously with Reddit and stuff like that. But I would imagine it would be, as ChatGPT moves along, I don't think that their pro model is ever going to support them. I know they said that they would be open to ads, at least on the free side of things. Once and like Gemini isn't great right now, but once everything gets time, it's going to be pretty okay, right? Like it's going to be pretty good. And I don't think that like ChatGPT is going to have this crazy competitive advantage that it had out of the gate. I think they're gonna need to rely on ads. So I think it'll look a lot different than it does today, where it's all like text based. I think it just has to, right? I think that it has to evolve. It has to become better, or then they're going to be the ones that could be, sort of passed as the thought leader.
It almost felt like that when DeepSeek felt like it came out of nowhere, right? And everybody was like, oh my God. And ChatGPT felt like the Google of AI search. I'm like, yeah, people, we're so associated with the brand. Nobody can touch us. We're the best. OpenAI. Oh no, wait. These guys out of nowhere in comparatively tiny little budget have suddenly dumped something that is comparable. Do you think that kind of thing will push them towards the monetization side of things? Like you said, ads, what does ads look like in ChatGPT search? What does it look like in Perplexity and things like that? I've heard a few different models suggested. Like we mentioned, obviously they're currently on a subscription model. I agree with you. I don't think that is sustainable with the numbers and the funding that they would need to do this kind of stuff. What do you think ads, what does the future of PPC and paid ads look like in AI search?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good, right? Like I think it's great. Just because like you see all these things, and even when you look at, Google's kind of mission statement, they're never going to have ads. It's just going to be helpful information. Look at that now, right? Like, look at that. I dare you to find something on your mobile phone, which is the number one, device for search, to find a query where there is not, where there's actual content above the fold. And I'm talking a commercial query too, like something that people are looking for. There are ads all the way above the fold, right? And I think the key, I guess, to me would be, I think with Elon and any politics aside, is like things are crazy until you actually do it, right? Like sending a rocket into space and making electric cars are things like, 10 years ago, couldn't do. Maybe Sam Altman, he seems like a super villain to me. Maybe he can figure out a way to make it so good it's paid. I just don't see it. But I didn't see sending rockets to space and electric cars everywhere, to be honest with you, like this quick. So I think there's got to be ads. And the biggest thing that I always love about SEO or PPC is that outside of like the yellow pages, like antiquated phone book, placements and things like that, it's like really the only place where people are seeking your product, right? Like it's people are seeking that. And again, what is ChatGPT ads going to look like? I don't know, but I know how to get in the seeking portion of like people, right? Like, okay, cool. I know how this works. Yeah, it might be broader terms. We're already seeing that with PMax. They're talking about Search Max and all these things. I'm cool with that. Like the biggest skills are going to be like, hey, what is working? What isn't working? Let's get more of what is working and less of what isn't working. It's like at a basic level, it's like just doing the basics really well, right? Like all those things are still critical. And it's like, if you care about something and if you want to be the best and figure it out, you can do that. So I'm not that worried about it at all. Just because, like I talked about earlier, I don't think that we're going to be able to be bidding on exact match keywords in 5 years. So yeah, I'm like actually super excited to see it and figure out efficiencies and do that, the basics really well, which is like that 80% of what really matters, and then get really good at that 20% of like, secret sauce stuff.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about it from a paid point of view, but I know I'd had this conversation the other day. I mentioned the conversational nature of search in AI search, right? So many people just talk to ChatGPT these days rather than actually typing in. And like you said, it's a totally different kind of query to the kind of thing you would put into Google, which basically means there would be no keyword targeting. Like that, I can't imagine a search console equivalent where you just get the queries from everything anybody has ever asked that gave a citation to you, all the weird variations of you being an American, me being a Brit, and how we would word things differently, let alone, the next generation or whatever. There would be so many variations, right? And I think I mentioned earlier, like, I feel like we kind of got into a habit of, I know what to put into Google to find the thing that I want. I've been using Google long enough. I've been using search engines. I kind of know the way to word things. You get the classic, every family member is like, oh, I can't find this thing. Hold on, give me 2 seconds. Found it for you. I knew the exact phrase to adjust to find it right. Does that, I guess, like the lack of consistent keywords, of want a better phrase, I guess there must be some sort of statistics that will build out, some sort of data set that will build out of that. But to me, it feels like a far more diluted kind of data set than traditional typing on a keyboard into search, right? Are we then entirely away from keywords and targeting keywords from a paid point of view, or targeting keywords from an organic point of view, and it's just appearing for like almost tokenized bits? Maybe, I don't know. I'm trying to think of how that could work in terms of that, the way people search and chat GPT and stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, we don't even spell the word on your wall the same. Like, we don't even do that the same. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think it's going to change things, right? Like, I actually think PMax has it right in some ways, where there's sort of like these search categories that you can see, right? And it might not be the detailed thing. It might not be the best Nike running shoes for pronators or something, but it might show up there as best running shoes. But like, that still is good. And then some of the intent is still really good. And Google does a good job with that too, in broad match for advertisers, right? Like, you can say what is on the landing page, what is adjacent to the term, but also what's the past history out there. And that's what's made like that tool specifically so good now, right? And so I do think that there will be sort of like these personas, profiles of people that you have, and being able to, as things grow and scale, like, be able to leverage that. So, yeah, I think it's going to be, different, but I think it's going to be more on that theme based, and then also like personas, interests, and like, who is this person specifically? And like, hey, how can you get to that person?
Yeah, I really like that. Like you said, the categorization and kind of personification, not personification, personification. If that's not a word, but I speak English good. But there's that element there of, do we then kind of just, like, everything is broad match, even in an SEO point of view. I think a lot of people are going to be pissed off when they cannot see the exact queries. I mean, we're already struggling to get stuff from GA4. Like, I know there's been a handful of reports you can run to get a little bit of LLM stuff here, but we're not accurately getting AI overview stuff without digging through Search Console and filtering and trying to find stuff. I know there was a discussion the other day about AI mode and how difficult, Glenn Gabe, who was mentioned on both our shows regularly, is covered how difficult AI mode will be to track in Search Console if Google don't give us those options. And is that kind of, like you said, moving towards that thing of, we're just dealing with categories. You are bidding on this type of category, or you are writing content that is ranking for this kind of category. I think the industry will freak out, but how much of that actually, like you said, there's still intent there. There's still a way to understand and differentiate between the two. But I think a lot of people will be frustrated with that. Again, it feels like it's taking away that control, right? When the data you have access to gets less specific. But
yeah, and I think one thing that Google did really poorly is just kind of come out, like, their communications team is just the worst. It just is. It's just terrible. Like, they should just Gemini their communication. But when they came out, they're like, oh, people love these and click through all these things. And it's like, this is like an emperor's clothes scenario.
God,
like,
yeah.
I know what I'm seeing. I know that you are naked and have no clothes on. Like, it is not, you can't just tell me this and expect me to believe it. Like, I can see your junk. You know what I mean? And so I think that is something where it's like a lot of like that bad blood where it came out. And honestly, like if it was that good, they would be like super proud of it. Right? Like when you are like right in life, I like get so like flummoxed. I'm like, why doesn't everybody see like this is the truth. I didn't do this, or I did do this. Like, you know what I mean? So I just think that doesn't bode well, right? Like we know because they don't segment this out or say, hey, this is a fantastic tool. You're going to love it. Here's all the data. That's something I'm very worried about, right? Like it's going to be really hard to make educated, informed decisions when you don't necessarily have any like insights behind it. So yeah, I think that's a huge problem. But again, thankfully on the ad side, I don't have to deal with that. So,
oh, great. Thanks, mate. Cheers. Yeah. No sympathy from the ad side. But you're right. Like even reporting to clients, I was picturing, as you were saying that, I was picturing in my head, me having that conversation. I was just like, yeah, we got, 1,500 clicks from good running shoes, I guess. Like, I don't know how many keywords that was or what the conversion rate was or anything like that, but I don't know. And you're spot on that so many, when a company knows it's done a good thing, it's going to shout from the rooftops about it. And the fact that they're like, oh, yeah, we've seen an improvement in click-through rate. Don't look into the data, but everything's fine. Don't worry about it. Just we're getting, everybody says how much they love it. It's our most popular search feature ever. There's like 1 billion users, give or take a few 100 million. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Everything's fine. Just don't look at the data. It's fine. If we had, like you said, if we had access to that data, we might be able to get a little peek behind the curtain and see what's actually going on. And I know there's been studies, obviously, of how much AI overviews affects the presence of an AI overview affects the click-through rate of organic results in the top 3 results and the click-through rate of paid ads as well. When we see that shift right back to what we were talking about at the very beginning of the episode, that real estate on the SERP, right? That actual pixel area on the screen of how much of that initial page load, how much of that viewport are you actually going to be accounted for in your ads, in your organic results. If it's all taken up with AI overviews, you're in trouble either way. And I think there's almost the opposite of what we were saying earlier, right? People are kind of naturally gravitating towards using ChatGPT and people are casually using this. Now the normies and the kids are picking up on it and stuff like that. I feel like I'm having similar conversations with the normies about Google, being like, what is this thing? Why is this happening? How? I can't even find what I was looking for anymore. And it almost feels like the opposite, kind of the other side of the coin, right? Where people are getting frustrated, even if they're not dealing with it day to day, like you and I and the viewers and the listeners are. Feels like people are kind of getting frustrated with it, despite, as you said, Pitchai and the team being like, everything's great, don't worry about it. AI views are more popular. We're going to expand them and make them even bigger because they're so popular. Like, I haven't seen anyone basically ever say anything popular about AI overview.
Yeah, no, totally. I do think though, like there are people that see that and use it, right? Like I think we're like really deep into search. I don't think anybody's ever like, this is phenomenal, but people do use it, right? Like
Yeah.
I watch all these content creators and a lot of times you look at the screenshots and it's just an AI overview. It's just Gemini that they're clipping and being like, moments later they were wrong and like show this. And it's like, you're just using an AI overview. But no, I think that experience in general is they just had to shoehorn so much in, which is why I'm hopeful with AI mode, where maybe it can be smaller, right? You can see that glimpse and you want that, good, click over to AI mode. But everything else can just be like, again, I think they have a competitive advantage with their search engine where other companies don't. And giving people that choice more instead of just jamming AI down everybody's throats. Like, I think that is a big thing. And I really hope they lean into that and say like, hey, while people are still getting used to AI search and all this stuff, we still have these traditional things here that we know are the best, right? And that's why they've gotten to where they are, is because they were able to make the best search engine. And I don't think anybody disputes that, at least pre 2015.
Yeah, and we briefly talked about those like monetization models there. One thing that's really kind of stuck in my mind, I think I brought it up pretty much every episode at this point to each guest, is what that kind of subscription model could look like in terms of paying for a number of searches or something like that. I know there's a premium search engine I was looking at the other day. I don't know how to pronounce it. Is it Kagi or Kagi, Kagi? That's you like a free account is 100 searches a month. $5 is 300, $10 is 500, or $20 unlimited. It's something like that. I could totally see an equivalent of that being kind of like the growth model there, but we mentioned how sustainable is that? What happened in the conversation I was doing as part of the SEO community a couple of weeks ago was, could it be a Netflixification of stuff where we see like, okay, you have a free version, but that's the one with all the ads. So every 5 searches, you get a full page YouTube style. You can escape this in 5 seconds if you dare, skippable ad in search. That sounds like hell to me personally, but I can totally see that from a business perspective. That could give a lot of value to a full page ad for advertisers, right? Do you think that could, I guess part 1A of that question is that a possible thing? Or is it a thing you would be positive about in the long run from a paid side of things, or from a user perspective, I guess?
Yeah. And I think I've seen it too many times where everybody's like, hey, I've got my brand new search engine. There's no ads. You just have to pay for it. They always fail. There's not one that's even been remotely
we said that,
close.
that was Google 20 years ago, right?
Yeah. But there have been like since they're like, hey, Google has so many ads.
Yeah.
We have no ads. And it's like, no, nobody cares. Right. So because of that, like, yeah, I think that again, maybe Sam Altman has a rocket to space or an electric car, but I just don't see it. Right. I think that for ChatGPT to succeed and actually start really like to really maximize stuff, and maybe he doesn't have to if he doesn't go public. Like Google has to, right? They're a public company.
Yeah.
They got to keep shaking every cushion they can. But yeah, I would imagine that it's going to be the case, right? You just admitted you're a regular Google user. There are ads everywhere on Google, everywhere, and it doesn't stop you. So is it going to stop people from ChatGPT if they get their answer and then they get a product next to it? Probably not. It's the same with YouTube. Like my kids are just like, ads these days are so long, and they just watch YouTube all. Like we just watch YouTube. Like people open up sports cards and stuff like that. Like, so yeah, I think there's going to be ads everywhere. I don't know how it can't.
It's going to be Blade Runner, right? Where there's just going to be massive 3D, inescapable, personalized ads beamed directly into your eyeballs at all times. Oh, good. A cyberpunk dystopian future we've all got to look forward to. Oh, God. Well, let's bring some hope and finish things off, shall we, Greg?
Let's bring the hope.
Let's bring the hope. Let's give some recommendations to the folks at home. I'm not saying I stole it from you, but it's a little bit like the cool tool feature in Marketing O'Clock, a little bit. Is there a tool or a piece of software you've been using recently that you'd recommend to the listeners and viewers that maybe they haven't heard of, maybe something new you've been checking out and been enjoying recently?
Yeah. So my cheating answer, it would be ChatGPT, but that's a terrible answer. I will never do that to you. So I will say one tool that could be really good if you're looking for video placements. Things may change as videos kind of in flux, and some VACs are moving, or video action campaigns are moving to demand gen. But even just in general, I like a tool, a scraping tool of sorts. I use Scrapebox, but it's a nice way like to be able to go through and either scrape YouTube results or Google results or any results that you're looking for, and say, I've got this, I've got a boat sale coming up. Okay, cool. This is something I just did. It just scraped, top fishing videos. And, same, you might not rank for something on SEO on the first page or on anything that's showing up in the AI overviews. But cool. Can you scrape the SERP and say, I wonder if there's AdSense on there? If I'm not ranking number 1 for this and I can't, we're like, is there AdSense on there? Cool. Then I can just run display ads on that page. And guess what? I'm on that page, even though that is not my page.
That's really cool. Yeah. I think, like you said, getting a perspective of what is actually happening on the SERP at scale can be so powerful. And that's a brilliant example there of being able to, well, I know I can't compete from an organic perspective. I don't have the time, budget, team, resources, whatever it is. Maybe you can from a paid perspective. That is a really, again, that out of the silo thinking we were talking about earlier, think like a marketer, not like an SEO. How can you compete in this space that isn't just churning out blog articles into the organic search and hoping for the best? Maybe there are other ways of doing it, trying different content formats, paying for stuff. There can be other ways of doing it. That's really, really cool. I'll put a link for Scrapebox in the show notes, that's for sure. And has there been, speaking of blog articles, podcasts, videos, creators, all that kind of stuff, is there anybody you're really enjoying at the moment, Greg, that you'd recommend the folks following? I'll let you plug Marketing Clock and It's New in a moment anyway. Don't worry about that. It's something you've been enjoying recently.
So a lot of time, like outside of work, I'm always going at work and always doing this. I just watch the dumbest possible things and listen to the dumbest possible. It's like it's like a vacation, like a daily vacation for my mind. So I don't know, like how I have real answers if you want for these. Like there are some good business books I like Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss is awesome. Radical Candour is great. But like, I like revenge. Like I'm into revenge now for some reason. I don't know why, but I watch like Reacher, the TV show. It's just this big dude.
Reacher's great, man.
He just gets revenge. And I'm just like, I'm just going to tune in, shut my brain off for 50 minutes. And I'm going to go watch revenge. There's a good book, The Terminal List. It's a series. It's like similar. It's just a guy going around getting revenge. And I like post-apocalyptic things too.
Nice.
I don't know if that's the right answer, but, and then of course, Search with Candour.
Oh, thank you, mate. Yeah. You mentioned Radical Candour. We'll go Radical Candour to Search with Candour. Exactly. Yeah. I love Reacher, dude. I think Alan Richard is brilliant. Like, he's as wide as he is tall, and he's very tall. And as a tall man myself, I find that kind of scary. But yeah. He seems like a good dude as well. I've seen him in interviews a few times. He seems like a nice guy. But he
just gets so much revenge. He gets so much revenge. It's amazing.
Is this, do you, not to turn the final of the podcast into a therapy session, Greg, but is this something you need to talk about, revenge? Is there anybody you need to get? Do you need to get revenge on Morty Obstein? Is this what we're discussing right now? Is this built up frustrations of years of dealing with SEO and PPC? You just need to go on a rampage. Is this what this is?
No, I love Morty. I love Barry. I love Manu. I just like good people. Do you know what I'm saying? And I like good things. I don't know why. It's just like that show. It's like it's doing good stuff. And I like positivity. And it's like, if I look at the world news, like it's horrifying, I'm just going to look at some good going on in the world.
Nice. Well, that's a very hopeful way to finish off the show. I appreciate you bringing in some revenge that's also hopeful in many ways to finish us off. But where is the best place to follow you and your, like you said, new series on LinkedIn might be a good thing to mention there. Where can the people follow you and what you've been up to across SEO, PPC, and marketing as a whole, as we said earlier, Greg?
Yeah, I think LinkedIn is probably the best source. So just Greg Fenn on LinkedIn. And then, I'm this way on Marketing O'Clock, like just try to really break down some of the news of the week and do it in a way that you don't really know you're getting educated, where it's like you're here for the you'd listen to the show even if you weren't in marketing. It's sort of the hope where I was like, people don't care about marketing. They would just want to be entertained. So it's a kind of like a sneaky way that we can keep people entertained and informed at the same time.
I believe the phrase is edutainment, and that was a little bit sick in my mouth just then, but it works. It works. Well, folks, please do go and follow Greg. Go and check out Marketing Clock if I haven't talked about how much I like it already. As I guess I'm biased as the unofficial British ambassador or whatever my title was the other day, but
yeah, it's official title.
Oh, it's official title. There we go.
Yeah.
That's official. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming. It's been a pleasure to actually finally sit down and have a conversation with you and have a little Marketing Clock Search with Candour crossover that I've been wanting for so many years.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure. And we're working on some stuff to get guests, and we got to do the same. It'd be fun.
Awesome, man. That sounds great. Thank you so much. And listeners, viewers, go and check out Greg. Go and check out Marketing Clock. And thank you so much for joining me, Greg.
Thanks for having me.
And that wraps up this week's episode of Search with Candour. I hope you very much enjoyed my conversation with Greg as much as I did having a conversation with him. I think it's a very, very cool, interesting perspective and look into the future with some predictions and things like that. Funnily enough, we already predicted the advent of shopping in ChatGPT, it feels like, and the possibility of ads in ChatGPT search as well. Since Greg and I recorded that has been announced in the news that they're integrating shopping features directly into ChatGPT search, and the discussion of ads and advertising and how that will tie into everything as well. So already a couple of little predictions coming true, which I think is very cool. In the next couple of weeks, I will have some fantastic guests. Next week, I'm going to have Kobe Ominaka on this very show, one of my favorite people to talk about podcasting with, funnily enough. And when I first met Kobe and ended up chatting to him and we kind of connected through our love of podcasting, I didn't even know Kobe was working in SEO and digital marketing. And then I found out he does a digital marketing podcast of his own, and we had a whole conversation of like, oh, we have like quite weirdly parallel careers here. We're both passionate about podcasting. We're both passionate about SEO and content and all this kind of stuff. So we're going to be talking about how to get free keywords. Do you really need tools to get all of your keyword research and all that kind of stuff? Are there tools that allow you to do some freemium stuff? Are there just ways of actually putting your brain to good use and going and looking stuff up manually that actually save some time and some effort? And I think it's a really interesting conversation about the nature and how much we're kind of relying on a lot of third-party data and tools and all that kind of stuff, when really a lot of critical thinking skills, something I talked about with Noah Lerner quite a few months ago last year, funnily enough, can really apply, and learning those fundamentals and basics can really, really set you up in a good way for future projects and future clients and all that kind of stuff as well. So stay tuned next week for my conversation with Kobe Ominaka. I will be back with Mark Williams-Cook talking all about the latest SEO news. Of course, we'll be doing a recap. We haven't done one in a while. We skipped last month, so we've got a lot to talk about, I'm sure. And I've also got people like Chris Ridley coming up. We're going to be talking all about PMAX. I know, right? Talking about PPC. And kind of, again, I'm almost having a little PPC run of episodes here, starting with Anno Adegbola at the beginning of the year, and we were talking about how SEO and PPC need to work together. This week's episode, obviously, the conversation you've just heard with Greg, talking about how it all relates to each other and we should be paying attention. And then I'll be talking to Chris about Performance Max in a way that I think ties quite nicely into what we were talking about with Greg. Like I said, there's an element here of all of this kind of automation we're seeing with SERPs and the automation we're seeing from a Google Ads perspective, and how Performance Max is evolving into things like Search Max, which is potentially coming soon, that I think will be very relevant even if you don't work directly in PPC, right? That was the whole point of this conversation with Greg, is we need to start thinking about things outside of just our little SEO box and pay attention to the stuff that's happening in PPC. So, like I said, I'm looking forward to having Chris on in the next couple of weeks as well. I also have a returning guest, one of my favorite people to talk to. Dana DiTomaso will be back, returning with, how do I word this? I think the official word was Dana's annual GA4 dumpster fire report, trademarked. And that was all about basically the kind of things Dana sees working day to day with so many clients, helping to set up GA4, to audit people's GA4 accounts, and all of the absolute dumpster fires and horror stories Dana has seen along the way over the last few years as we get closer and closer towards the final cutoff of Universal Analytics later this year. So stay tuned for all those conversations coming up. Like I said, next week, Kobe Ominaka talking about getting free keywords and how to do that. Fantastic conversation. I'm sure you will enjoy it, and please stay tuned for that next week. If you haven't already, of course, please do like us on YouTube, subscribe using the button down below. You can follow us on Spotify, leave us a 5-star review, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, all the good stuff that helps us spread the word of Search with Candour, and let me know you're enjoying the show, essentially. Have a couple people popping up in the Spotify comments as well, which is always cool. I find it fascinating that Spotify is now more YouTubified and you can actually reply there as well. So yeah, if you have any thoughts, have any questions, have any feedback, drop them in the comments down below wherever you're watching or listening, and I'll see you next week. Until then, have a lovely week.